hi again. This is Neal Grandstaff, the crazy professor, and I'm hoping that you've gone far enough into your scale studies now. This is another serious lesson about how to connect your scales. Now, when we study the 5 chord forms and the 5 scale studies, I'm going to quickly go over those again. The 5 chord forms are C, connected to A shape, again A in open position, A shape to G, to E, to D. Of course, you can start with any chord in the open position, and that'll always be in the same order. If I start with, say, start with A, goes to G shape, goes to E shape, to D shape, and C shape before it repeats at the octave. They all repeat after that one octave. That's a repeating cycle. It's kind of interesting how the word caged happens to be the 5 chords, and when you learn that it's just a loop, you're kind of inside of a cage. So it's not a bad way to remember it. So any chord form you start with here is going to extend the same way up and down the neck. And I won't beleaguer that. I'll let you study that on your own in the book. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the 5 scale forms that are attached to the chord forms. We're going to do 2 exercises. One of them is going to be the connected scales, and there'll be 5 variations, obviously. If I start with E shape, again, you can't play an E shape scale study without being up on the neck somewhere, because if you're here, you'd have to start here. Your hand would be off the neck if you're going to play the scale shape that fits over that E shape, and you're using 4 fingers, 4 frets rule. That's the rule that gives us the matrix or the keyless way of looking at the instrument. So here's what we do. We move up as far as we have to have the E shape totally on the neck. 4 fingers, 4 frets. We're going to start at the 2nd fret on this. Now, if it starts with the E shape, that's just 1/2 step lower than where you learned it for originally. So move back 1 fret from where your original position was. Go halfway up. Now we landed on the D string on our octave point. So now we're going to take the 5th scale that you learned, which was the D shape, and we're going to shift from the 4th finger to the 2nd finger and play the D shape. Shift. Okay, we landed on our 4th finger again. Now we're going to shift from the 4th finger to the 2nd finger, and we're going to go down in pitch, but up the neck through the C shape. Remember, we went E, D, last letter in the word of caged, C would be the next shape. Again, we just loop around. Now we landed on our pinky for the root. Let's go to the 2nd finger again, play the A shape. And back. Okay, there's that shape. Again, all the way top. Now we land on our pinky. Let's go straight across the neck with the G shape. Now, if you haven't practiced these shapes backwards and forwards, this exercise will be a little strange because you may not be used to starting here and going back through your scale shape. So if you need more practice on your discrete scales, do it. I went back up in pitch, but across the neck with the G shape. I'm going to go down through the A shape, land on that 2nd finger, shift to the pinky. So when we're going downward, or down the neck, we shift from the 2nd finger to the pinky. I'll do that again. Going up, 2nd finger starts this shape. Shift to the 2nd finger from the 4th finger, from the pinky. From the 4th finger to the middle finger. Again, from the pinky to the 2nd finger. From the pinky to the 2nd finger. And if you wanted to keep going up, if you had enough frets, you could do this endlessly, all directions. We're going to stop at the 5th, or the loop point, and just go down in pitch through that shape. That's the G shape, a little reach there. And the reason that we start over at the octave points is so you get used to the point that your hand should shift to the next shape to stay in the same key. Okay, let's move over a string and start with the A shape. Remember the A shape, the E shape, and the D shape. Start with your 2nd finger on the root point. Here we go. A shape. Across the neck with G shape. Shift from your fourth finger, your pinky, to the second finger, E shape, halfway up. Halfway through the exercise, we can go clear across the neck. We're going to go up the neck. Shift to the second finger to play the D shape. That's how it connects. And then back to the C shape. All right, now we landed on the pinky, so we're going to go back up, but we don't want to go further up the neck. That's all 5 shapes. And again, we shift. You don't have to shift here. They're interconnected at the top of the octave point. Okay, we'll move over one more string, go to the D shape as a starter. Second fret, that's where you learned it. That's kind of neat. Now everything is an E. You're in the key of E, because that's where you're starting. Key of E on the D string. Shift. And stay in time. Here's a little trick. You're going to move up to the E shape to finish all 5 shapes. Go all the way across the neck. I'll do that again. Now we could go, when we stay in the same spot, so we're going to skip the G shape. I want you to take particular notice the special relationship that the G shape has with the E shape and the A shape. It's right in between them. It's kind of tucked in between. Okay, so that's going to be really important to you later. But right now, just learn how to manipulate your fingers both directions. So again, we'll start with the last shape in this particular, the third incarnation of the 5 scale shapes. Now we'll go straight down through A. And again, in your book, it'll show how we're going to skip the G shape and go down the neck. Shift to the pinky, C shape, D shape, end it. Now we're going to go to C shape at the 4th fret. Again, we want to give ourselves enough room. We learned it at the 5th fret, same way with the G shape. When we start with G shape, we're going to move down a fret. So we have enough room on the neck to do all 5 of them, and it's comfortable even if you have a dreadnought guitar that ends at the 14th fret. Again, we want to have a cutaway is really ideal for some of this exercise, but you want to get all of it if you can. Do as much of it as you can. You'll eventually see how all this works in your mind's eye. You have to do it enough times to where in your mind, you don't have to necessarily use exactly these fingers. These are the most minimalized motion. You want to minimize your motion with your left hand so you don't get tired. But you also want to have the quickest and easiest access, the most direct access to the neck. So we're going to start with the C shape here. Straight up and back on the octave so we land on the pinky. Now we're going to move up the neck again to the next shape, which would be A shape. Cross with G shape. E shape halfway up. D shape. Back down. E shape. G shape. A shape. C shape. That's number 4. Number 5, the 5th variation, G shape. Start here. This is a stretch. This is good for your hands. You'll find that every one of these exercises is condensed to the point where you have a technique exercise, you have an ear opening exercise, so you know how to stay in the right key, and you have a time exercise. You're playing this in time. So we'll start with the G shape. E shape. Up halfway to D shape, to C shape, to A shape. Back down through A shape, to C shape, D shape, or D form. G form is the last one again. We started there, we're back down. That's the 5 variations of your scale shapes. You'll notice that they're similar, but when you start in a different place, your brain has to pick up, well, I'm going to start at the top of the discrete scale shape I've been practicing. So you really get to know your scales. Later on, we'll talk about modes and again, referring to the the scales and their interval numbers as well as their names, like tonic, supertonic, median, submedian, dominant, subdominant, leading tone, and so on and so forth. We'll get to all that. We'll sort that out for you. I didn't even give you that in the proper order, but that's the point. The scale can be described in numbers. It can be described in letter names. It can be described in solfege or the sound. It also can be described as a different set of names as well as their modes. Okay, so there's like 4 or 5 ways of describing the same thing. The simplest way, of course, is with the numbers. So practice your connected scales, but be sure to reestablish the octave points. And stay in time. Now I'm adjusting my hand at each point. The exercise is really partly about that. Again, the condensed exercise gives you all this information at once. So be kind to yourself, practice a bunch, and don't just shift past the octave points. That'll be the next exercise. It's in the book, but you make that step once you get evaluated. Again, members that have the next level of membership will have the evaluations. You get 3 free evaluations, half-hour evaluations with every middle range membership at Guitar Mechanics. So you'll have a chance to talk one-on-one with me or one of our other very knowledgeable guitar instructors one-on-one, live and in person on the web. So until we meet again, keep the faith, stay true to your school, and don't stop practicing.